This is Adam Abraham. I'm here to talk about Magoo Saves the Bank.
A penny saved is a penny earned.
I will also use this as an opportunity to discuss the phenomenon that was Mr. Magoo in the 1950s, and then I will conclude with a few words about the film's director, Pete Burness. Note the name Dick Shaw on the lower right. He wrote or co-wrote one-third of UPA's Columbia cartoons. His writing partner in this particular short was Dick Kinney, the brother to Disney director Jack Kinney, who took over the direction of UPA's feature film 1001 Arabian Nights. We find Waldo practicing a hobby. The usual voice actor for Waldo, Jerry Hausner, spent time in Europe, and he seems to have been replaced by Dawes Butler, best known for his work for Hanna-Barbera. Magoo Saves the Bank was production number 50-71. It was released in September 1957, the year in which Mr. Magoo dominated the release schedule of UPA's theatrical shorts. The last of UPA's one-shot cartoons was The Jaywalker, released in 1956. UPA's final attempt at a non-Magoo series, Ham and Hattie, appeared soon after Magoo Saves the Bank. As in many Magoo cartoons, the structure here is based on misapprehension. Rather than suffering for his confusion, Magoo invariably triumphs. The fellow on the left resembles Aloysius Q. Tirefighter, the insurance salesman who attempts to fleece Magoo in the earlier short Trouble Indemnity, released in 1950. This scene typifies Jim Backus's conception of the character. He developed a routine entitled The Man on the Train, in which he played the role of that tedious person who would generally sit next to you on a long train ride, bore you with anecdotes, and crack jokes.
Well, here's where I get off. There's the First National Bank.
Notice the simplified background and the use of vibrant, primary colors. Magoo Saves the Bank is a good representation of the Magoos of the mid to late 50s. Magoo's clinical blindness is almost incidental. Pete Burness conceded that it was just a device. What really mattered was Magoo's self-confidence, as a 1953 article put it, his unshaken confidence in the reasonableness of the world. In the days of the Cold War, creeping communism, and the threat of nuclear annihilation, Magoo's optimism was appreciated by moviegoers.
My account.
My account?
The pun is most inspired, and the odds against my account are steep. A few other characters also seem to be performed by Dawes Butler. In the 1950s, the UPA studio became associated with so-called limited animation. Shortcuts, cycles, holds, and flattened character designs were part of UPA's embrace of modern graphics, as an alternative to Walt Disney's brand of full-bodied, curvilinear animation. Note the way in which the horse race is kept off stage. We hold on an image of the loudspeaker, and the cartoon becomes, for a moment, like a radio drama. In this shot, only Magoo is animated. The other patrons are perfectly still, and desaturated as well. Again, information is conveyed with no animation whatsoever.
By a length, war corporal by a half a length.
In this conversation, the key word is panic.
Don't be a fool, Homer.
A great piece of limited animation follows. The mob mentality of the eager gamblers is expressed by the fact that they move as a single, desaturated unit. They are at once absolutely still and yet hastening forward.
Started a run on the...
Dennis Farnon's score here makes a shift, as it turns earnest, mock heroic, when Quincy Magoo, standing on a platform, delivers his big speech. As a member of the older generation, Magoo would of course remember the Great Depression, in which there were runs on the bank. Before the advent of Federal Deposit Insurance, funds were not necessarily safe. The scene exemplifies the dual levels at which the cartoon is working. The filmmaker's parody, a Capra-esque moment, yet Magoo's sentiment is somehow comforting.
Homer, control yourself.
He bets everything on bright future. Part of the film's cunning satire is to conflate banking with gambling, patriotism with quasi-legal practices. When Magoo is most emphatically wrong, somehow he gets it right.
Nonsense. It's my patriotic duty.
Before we reach the happy conclusion, I'd like to discuss the film's director. Wilson David Burness was born in 1904. When he was young, one of his sisters began calling him Peter for some obscure reason. In the animation business, everyone knew him as Pete. He was a seasoned animation professional by the time he began working at United Productions of America in 1950. Burness had worked at animation studios on both the East and West Coasts. He joined UPA as an animator and contributed to The Miner's Daughter and Spellbound Hound. After directing Magoo's third picture, Trouble Indemnity, Pete Burness went on to direct around 70% of the Columbia Magoos. With Burness taking over the series, change was inevitable. Producer Steve Basusto connected the changes to the personalities of the directors. John Hubley, who directed the first Magoo short, was described as satirical and difficult to work for. Basusto said that Burness was sweeter, softer, happier. Yet Pete Burness was a diligent worker who usually supervised 3 or 4 films at once in various stages of completion. Around 1957, Burness began to supervise Magoo's feature debut, 1001 Arabian Nights. Unhappy with the project, he left the studio in 1958, subsequently worked on Jay Ward's Rocky and Bullwinkle. In the 1950s, the Magoo films were enjoyed by audiences, praised by critics, and commercially successful. So it is appropriate that Magoo Saves the Bank begins and ends with images of money.
Great Scott.
Magoo then misquotes an aphorism from another patriotic American, Benjamin Franklin.
Well, as I always say, a penny earned is a penny saved, and always